dear students, welcome to my channel Study of Philosophy. In this video, I'll be discussing about the Unit 2 of H.S.2ND year Logic and Philosophy, that is the grounds of induction. In this video, I'll explain about the ground of induction, formal ground, material ground, and the law of uniformity of nature. So let's get started. So in our previous unit, that is in the nature of inductive inquiry, I have already explained about what is induction. So what is induction? Induction, it aims at establishing a materially true general proposition as its conclusion. So, to make its conclusion to be materially true, induction has to depend on observation. A observation is limited to particular instances only. So, it has to jump from particular to universal, from some to all. And for safe jump or leap, it has to depend on certain formal principles or laws also. So, what is the ground of induction? The laws and processes depending on which induction establishes a general proposition is known as the ground of induction. So, there are two kinds of ground. One is known as the formal grounds of induction and the other is the material grounds of induction. So what is formal grounds of induction? The principles or laws which guarantee the formal truth of induction are called formal grounds of induction. There are two formal grounds of induction. Number one, the law of uniformity of nature, and number two, the law of causation. So what is material ground? The principle or the process which guarantee the material truth of induction are called material grounds of induction. Material grounds are also of two kinds. One is simple observation and the other is experiment. So about the material grounds, I will discuss in my next video. What is the law of uniformity of nature? The principle or the law of uniformity of nature has been expressed in different ways by different logicians, such as nature is uniform, nature repeats itself, in nature there are parallel cases, the future will resemble the past, the absent is like the present, and so on. So what is the real meaning underlying all these expressions? The real meaning underlying all these expressions is very simple, and that is that nature behaves in the same way under similar circumstances. That means if the same circumstances occur, the same event will happen. If we take the example that if water quenches our thirst in the past under certain circumstances, it will quench our thirst in future also under similar circumstances. So if fire burnt us in the past under certain circumstances, under similar circumstances in future also fire will burn us. So, there are two forms of uniformity of nature. One is known as the uniformity of coexistence and other is the uniformity of succession. So, uniformity of coexistence means when we perceive two events that occur at the same time. For example, milk is white. That means milk and whiteness, they coexist everywhere and at all times. So their coexistence, that is known as the uniformity of coexistence. On the other hand, uniformity of succession is that when we perceive two events that occur successively. For example, day follows night and night follows day. Day follows night expresses the uniformity of succession. So, if we define it negatively, that is the law of uniformity, if we define the law of uniformity of nature negatively, we can say that nature is not capricious or whimsical. The phenomena in nature are governed by fixed laws. So nature is uniform in behavior. So in our ordinary observation, what we see, it appears that nature is not at all uniform. She is whimsical. That means changeable rather than regular. She is multiform rather than uniform. Some events in nature, such as earthquake, flood, etc., seem to be governed by no law. So it is said that the course of nature is not at all uniform. On the contrary, nature is very much whimsical and irregular in her behavior. But this is a mere misconception based on our ordinary observation. So uniformity of nature, it does not mean that there is no variety in nature. In nature, there are various kinds of phenomena occur, and accordingly, there are various departments in nature, and these departments are governed by different uniformities or laws. If we take the example, in the department of physics, there is the law of gravitation. In the department of chemistry, there is the law of proportion, and so on. So, one logician, Bain, says that the course of the world is not a uniformity but uniformities. That means the whole of nature is not subject to one uniformity or law but to different uniformity or laws. So though there are various departments in nature and also there are different laws governing these different departments, yet these different laws are parts of the one whole. So all the parts are parts of the one system. So nature is not chaos but a cosmos. It is a unity in variety. Nature is that thus really uniform. So at last what we can say? We can say that nature is uniform. So the principle of the uniformity of nature, we know that it is the formal ground of induction. So what is formal ground of induction? The process which establishes the formal truth of induction is known as the formal ground of induction. So from that standpoint, principle of uniformity of nature, it is regarded as the formal ground of induction. So according to Mill, this is an assumption in every case of induction, scientific and unscientific. That means principle of uniformity of nature, it is an assumption in every case of induction, that is scientific and unscientific. If this principle is not accepted as true, we cannot pass from the known to the unknown, from the observed to the unobserved, from the particular to the general proposition. So, on the ground of this principle of the uniformity of nature, only by observing mortality of some man, we infer that all men are mortal. From that standpoint, the principle of uniformity of nature is the ground of all inductions. Mill also calls this principle, that is the uniformity of nature, as a fundamental principle or a general axiom of induction. It cannot be proved But with the help of this principle, all induction are proved. This principle is the guarantee, the ultimate major premise of all inductions. Thus, the principle of the law of uniformity of nature is a postulate or formal ground of induction.
Now I will explain about the paradox of induction. So what does the word paradox means? The word paradox means proposition seemingly absurd, yet true in fact or seeming contradiction. So paradox of induction means Mill's contradictory statement regarding the principle of the uniformity of nature is known as the paradox of induction. It simply means that the ground of induction is itself the result of induction. Mill calls this principle, that is the law of uniformity of nature, a fundamental principle or general axiom of induction and an assumption implied in every case of induction. But inconsistently enough, Mill also says that the principle of the uniformity of nature is the result of unscientific induction. So it's itself an instance of induction. So these two statements made by Mill regarding the principle of the uniformity of nature are contradictory to each other. Once he calls this principle the ground of induction, which cannot be derived from experience, and on the other hand, he says that it is derived from experience. This contradiction in the statements of Mill regarding the principle of the uniformity of nature is known as the paradox of induction in Western logic. Thus, paradox of induction simply means that the ground of induction is itself the result of induction. So that's all for today. Students, if you have any queries about the topic discussed, leave a comment in the comment section. And please don't forget to subscribe my channel and click the bell icon so that you get a notification whenever I upload a new video.